In JavaScript, there are three main ways to declare variables: var, let, and const. Each has unique characteristics and use cases. Let's start with var. Variables declared with var are function scoped, meaning they are only accessible within the function they are defined in, or globally scoped if declared outside the function. They are hoisted to the top of their scope and initialized with undefined, allowing them to be used before their declaration, though their value will be undefined. Var allows redeclaration within the same scope and can also be reassigned. However, it does not have a temporal dead zone, which means it can be accessed before its declaration. For example, in a function, you can declare var x, assign it a value, and even redeclare it without errors. Additionally, var is not block scoped, so variables declared inside a block, like an if statement, are accessible outside of it. Next, we have let. Variables declared with let are block scoped, meaning they are only accessible within the block, statement, or expression where they are defined. Unlike var, let is hoisted but not initialized, so accessing it before its declaration results in a reference error due to the temporal dead zone. Let does not allow redeclaration within the same scope but does allow reassignment. For example, you can declare a let variable, assign it a value, and reassign it, but you cannot redeclare it within the same scope. Additionally, variables declared with let inside a block are not accessible outside of that block. Finally, we have const. Like let, const is block scoped and hoisted but not initialized, meaning it also has a temporal dead zone. Const does not allow redeclaration or reassignment, and it must be initialized at the time of declaration. However, for objects and arrays declared with const, their properties or elements can still be modified. For example, you can change the properties of an object or add elements to an array declared with const, but you cannot reassign the object or array itself. This makes const ideal for declaring variables that should not be reassigned but may have mutable properties. In summary, var is function scoped and allows redeclaration and reassignment, making it less restrictive but potentially error-prone. Let and const are block scoped, with let allowing reassignment but not redeclaration, and const requiring initialization and disallowing reassignment. Understanding these differences is crucial for writing clear and predictable JavaScript code. When writing modern JavaScript, it's important to follow certain best practices to ensure your code is clean, efficient, and less error-prone. First, use const by default for variables that shouldn't be reassigned. This makes your intentions clear and helps avoid accidental changes. However, when you know a variable's value will need to change, such as in loops, counters, or other dynamic scenarios, use let instead. It's also recommended to avoid using var altogether, as it is considered outdated and can lead to scoping issues. Speaking of scope, let and const provide clearer block scoping rules compared to the function scoping of var, making your code easier to understand and debug. Additionally, the temporal dead zone, a feature of let and const, prevents variables from being used before they are declared, which helps catch errors early. Finally, remember that while const prevents reassignment of a variable, it does not prevent mutation of the properties of objects or arrays. This means you can still modify the contents of an object or array declared with const. So be mindful of this behavior when working with complex data structures.